Okay, good morning, everybody. This is class 7 of CAD 212 on February 14th. Today in class, we're going to be going over some advanced roof things, including how to create soffit, fascia, and gutters. We'll also learn how to paint walls. This is where you can really kind of create a bunch of new materials and learn how to really personalize your space. And use some design ideas here. So you will be required to create new walls. Well, not new walls, but paint the walls and new materials. Some important dates to keep track of are March 7th, when this midterm project will be due, and March 9th, when we will have our midterm. Let's take a look at the time we have remaining on the semester. So we have this week right here, and then the following week, so 4 more classes, and then we're off for an entire week for Mardi Gras. And then after Mardi Gras, I know it's terrible timing that they do it this semester, but we'll have our midterm project due here, and then we'll jump right into our midterm exam. So how I foresee the rest of the class going is we're going to continue working on the project, the model here, for these 2 dates, and then we'll have an entire week left to talk about how we're going to pull this information together to create our sheets and to create our file for our construction documents. Last questions or anything before we break will be on the 23rd also, but you'll have all your information here in order to complete your assignment over the break. And then also we'll have like a quick review here for the midterm. That way you'll have time to review for that, because I know that's what you're going to do during Mardi Gras break. But you will have that information in case you have time to do that. And then the midterm project will be due on the 7th. And that'll be due by the end of class at 11 o'clock. So when we come back on this day, we will have class. We will review for the final, and then we'll still have class open, and that'll just be for any questions anybody has or any trouble anybody has with stuff, getting their midterm project done. Then we'll break for class, and you'll have a few hours to get your midterm project turned in, to have that set. So and then of course our midterm exam will be on March 9th. That will be at 9 a.m. and it usually takes just about 2 hours to do that, but that will be live. And I know some people have requested, that they can't attend class because of work. And I did say that's okay, but you do need to be here for the exam. If you are not here for the exam, there will not be a makeup exam. I'm giving you lots of time, almost a month in advance notice to take off work or anything, but you do have to be live for the exam. Any questions about that, y'all?
Yeah, my Zoom cut out there for a second. Could you just repeat that last part about the midterm?
Yeah. Well, you're in class, so you should be okay to make it to class, but some people have required, well, not required, have asked me if they could not come to class and just watch the recording. And I said that's fine because it is kind of a weird time. So, but everyone is required to attend for the midterm and the final exam. So the exams are live. And they're open only at a certain time. They'll be open at 9 o'clock at this time, and then they will shut down, after the time is expired. So you must take the exam live, and there will be no makeups for if you miss the exams. So that's it on the exam stuff, unless anybody has any more questions. All right, let's go ahead and jump into today's lecture. We'll talk about roofs and things. Let me jump into Revit. So I did get a chance to review your projects in Revit. So if you turn that in, please check the comments that I made and just from there. All right, so this is someone's project that I looked at, and we'll just kind of use this one from what we're going to do for class today. So a couple of things that I caught on here. So what I'll usually do when I come in and review your stuff is I'll automatically just go to 3D because that's where I get the best idea of what's going on with your project. And then I'll go back and check everything on these different sections, like our level ones and things like that, to see if there's any issues with that floor plan. So in this one, a couple of things that can be fixed. Let's go back to 3D. So obviously this is half of a double. So just some suggestions when some people have half of a double or a project that's just an apartment. We're going to go ahead and just pretend that it's an entire building, and we're just going to finish up this other wall with another exterior wall. So I'll show you how to do that. On here, our walls, we check those. So we've got, that looks good, correct, good, great. And we've got our interior wall. Good. Walls are done correctly. So one thing that did catch my eye, just kind of flipping through this real quick, is this right here. You see the door here, we've got like this big mass in front of it. So that kind of shows me something's off on that. So what I'll do is I'll hide this front wall and see what's going on here. So here you can see we have a slab on top of a slab. This is a finished floor slab. So you can see how that cuts into the wall and how it's too high and laying on top of it. So we want to actually get rid of that. So let's delete that. And then we want to just remember, we want to create our own floors on top of that. So what we would do in place of that is go to our floor tool. I don't want to use this floor. We want to start with the generic and create our own floor. We're going to go into edit, and we're going to duplicate and rename. So call that floor carpet. And we want to set that to the size we want. So let's make that 1.5 inches. And then when we come in here, we want to make sure that you change that to 1/2 inch so it's not that thick flooring on top of your slab. We'll change this to a finished layer. And I'm going to jump in. I'm going to just pick this carpet. Oops. Use render appearance. And jump all the way out of that. And remember, here's where I want to kind of draw my space. You can pick lines, you can draw. I'm just going to draw because I have this opening here. All right, so finish drawing. And remember, I want to offset this, the thickness of the rug. So this going to offset this 5 inches. So it's going to lay on top of that slab. And I'm going to do my check mark here. And I'm going to jump back to 3D and see what happens. What room did I draw this in? What the heck? Right, so that's interesting. I've got my carpet here. Oh, you've got ceilings in place. All right, that's what it is. All right. That was weird. Ceilings in place and on the wrong side. There we go. I was wondering what was happening. Okay, so here we have our finished floor. So you can see how this lays on top of our slab now, as opposed to that other giant slab on top of the slab. So whoever this is, go ahead back and make sure that you correct that. Did put a note in your Canvas notes for that. So we just want to get that corrected there. So that looks much better. And let's go ahead and just kind of finish this one up. So for this side of the building, I just want to change that to this wall right here. I'm going to change that to your exterior wall. See if that did that. Okay, great. I'll just drag that down and close it. And it may not look exactly like your property, but it's going to make, I'm just unjoining these elements so I can join them back this way. You obviously have this one locked in place, so I have to unlock it. And then I can move that together. And that's just going to make it easier for you to draw your roof. So anybody that has an apartment that has an open wall, I saw a couple of you did that, just go ahead and close it. I know it's not going to be a full representation of your building, but it's just going to make it easier for you to finish this project. One other thing that this person's going to have to do when they finish that off is correct their slab. So you can see right here that the slab will have to be extended as well. Remember, in order to extend the slab, we're just going to go back, select that, just like we learned last time, hit edit boundary. Let's delete that. All right, we've got an extra line somewhere.
Mine is the top right corner that's a little wonky. I had the same issue when I was adding the slab.
Ah, perfect, great catch. So I'll just use this trim command. Yeah, it's off just a little bit on that line. Great catch. And then there's another one somewhere else. All right, so we should be able to fix this. It's obviously very frustrating. So at this time, I would just delete this and draw a new floor. So just go back and fix that. In order to do that, we just go back to floor. We go back to our generic floor. We change that to our concrete. And now it should just be able to pick the walls. Okay, so much quicker. Sometimes it's quicker to edit. Sometimes it's just quicker to go back and redraw it. All right, so there we are. What are we supposed to be doing today? Soffit fascia gutters. Okay, yeah, that would help. All right, so I'm going to go to level 2. I'm going to throw a quick roof on here. I'm going to do a 3-foot overhang. Oops, that's not what I wanted. And our green check mark. No, I don't want that. And let's go to 3D. You can see how sometimes it's very challenging when you go into someone else's project to kind of edit it. All right, so when I did that, I've got this. Oh, this is your ceiling. So your ceilings are set at 12 feet. So that would need to be corrected as well. We weren't able to catch that before because of the way the walls were shaped. So let's set those. If you have 12-foot ceilings, there's different ways that we can edit that. And once we have the roof in place, it kind of changes that. So let's actually change this. Let's actually change this to 10-foot. If you have 12-foot ceilings, we would actually have to change the height of the level to 12 foot, but we're just going to leave it at 10 foot now. Here I'll have to select all instances again. And these are just good catches for you as you're going through this project. Height offset 10 foot. All right, so the last thing we have to do is fix that chimney. We'll just kind of leave that there for now, and I'll show you how to fix that later. All right, let's get on to today's lesson. Okay, so soffit fascia gutters. If we remember from our last class, soffit is actually something that runs from our exterior roof line to our exterior wall line. So it's going to fill in the gap between here and here. As you can see, if this was, an old New Orleans house, it would probably be able to see the rafters going through there and things like that. But through most modern houses, this space is covered, and it's covered by a soffit. And soffit can be a little frustrating to draw. I'll give you that. But let's go ahead and go through that and figure out how to do that. So remember, as I said, it's going to go from this exterior wall line to the exterior roof line. So we'll go to Architecture tab, Build Panel, Roof Tool. We'll do the drop down on the Roof Tool, and we'll pick our soffit tool. So here we're actually going to draw the soffit, and it's basically going to be along the exterior roof line and along the exterior wall line. Basically putting especially with the hipped roofs, basically just putting like a picture frame around it. You can kind of think of it like that. So let's do that. So I'm gonna do my pick line tool, because I want to pick these exterior roof lines. And then I want to pick my exterior wall lines. And make sure you pick the exterior one. See here, I'm catching that interior line. So I want to make sure I pick that exterior roof line. It just gets frustrating to go back and edit if you pick the wrong one. As you've noticed, going back and editing things, this gets a little frustrating sometimes. All right, so basically I have this magenta picture frame around here. And now I'll hit my green check mark. All right, let's go to 3D, see what that looks like. And we've got something that looks like that. So not quite correct. We have to do a little editing. Let me hide the roof just so you can see what's going on here. And if we turn this, you can see how it is just like a little picture frame around it. That's the best way to do it. I mean, if you go out to your house and you look up under the overhang, you'll see that that's covered. And that's just the way we run that along there. For this, couple of things that we want to take a look at. If we click on that soffit and we go over to our properties and our type selector, it defaults to a 4-inch thick generic soffit. Most soffits are not 4 inches thick. We can just leave that generic. If you want to change that, you can change that to a 1/2-inch piece of plywood, which is more likely going to be what your soffit is. Some soffits are covered with vinyl siding, but you can just use the generic 4-inch default. I just want you to know that most soffits are not 4 inches. I'm not sure why they created it at 4 inches for this. You can, if you wanted to, go back in and go to edit type, duplicate, rename, change the color of it, change the wood, all of that. Remember, you can't edit that. And then also you have height offset. It's set at level 2. So when we come this way, you see that it's set right there at level 2. Obviously, when we want to offset that, because when we put the roof back, our soffit's sitting like right up here, and it needs to go right under the roof right here. So let's click on that, make it active, and we're actually going to change the height offset at this time. Let's just change that to -1 foot. And I said -1 foot because I want to bring it down under this way. So that's why I have to use a negative. Obviously, -1 foot is definitely not enough. Now, this is a 12-inch roof, I believe we used. So let's make this -2 feet and see where we end up. Still not enough because of the thickness of the angle and the thickness of the rafters. So let's bring this down to 2 foot 4 inches. Nice. So see how we just have just a little bit showing right here? That's what you want to shoot for. So if you're using the thickness of this roof, it's usually about -2 foot 4 inches. If you have it at 2 foot 3 inches or 2 foot 5 inches, I'm not going to worry about that extra like half bit, but you want to have it so it's at least that soffit falls right there and kind of covers that. Notice how we have got just a nice finished look now. One thing you may be thinking is like, how does this represent something in our set of drawings? Well, remember this image, this model is just for our, to base all of our drawings on, our big drawings, our floor plans and things like that. Remember, once we get into these roof details, that's actually going to be a detailed drawing, kind of like we looked at that stuff in the set of plans earlier. So when we would create the detail of this roof, we would actually have the proper measurements to how to create that roof for the rafters and things like that. So we wouldn't actually pull our detailed drawings from this. This is just so we can have a correct model to show our clients. But in order to create those roof details, we do that a separate way. All right. So soffit's probably the one that people have most trouble with. Excuse me. Roof and gutters is a little easier. So we can do roof and gutters from our 3D view, and it's probably easier in 3D. So architecture tab, build panel roof tool, drop down. We always want to do our fascia first. Remember, fascia is the piece that runs on the exterior side of our rafters to kind of cover them up on this angle in this view. So we want to click on that top exterior line of the roof, and that'll cover that right there. If we just click that one into space here, and if we default that, notice how this default fascia is only 12 inches. It's only a foot thick. On here, you can go into edit and you can change the thickness of that, duplicate, rename. This is the biggest one they have in here now. It's 12 inches. So that's not necessary. You don't have to do that. But just be aware that if that it'll look like this. Now, if we change this roof type to 9 inches, notice how it brings that down and it just finishes it off a lot nicer. So there's all these the defaults in Revit don't give us as much flexibility. We can add some of that stuff later on just to make it look more finished, but that I'm not particularly worried about at the moment. I just want to make sure that you know how to create all the stuff. So let's go back and finish the fascia for the rest of the building. So we'll go back to roof. Oops, I don't want regular roof. No, I don't want that. Cancel. Roof, drop down, fascia. And then sometimes when people are doing fascia, you're going to pick the wrong line that it goes on. It's going to go and you may pick something like that. Sometimes you're not paying attention to like the exact line that you're picking, and you'll start to have something that looks like this. That is obviously wrong. So pay attention to where you pick those lines so you don't have anything that looks like that. With fascia, when I come back to it, the easiest way to redo it is just hit delete. And that's going to delete everything you did in that last fascia session. It didn't delete that front part because I canceled that earlier and just finished off that front part. But it did delete the two last pieces I did in that one fascia session. So let's just go back and finish that now. So drop down, fascia tool. Pick that top exterior line. I've got that fascia piece here. Sometimes people duplicate the fascia, but I know that's here because it's got that extra piece there. And notice how it just closes there. And one last piece there. So if I give it a spin, I can see that there's fascia on all of that. If I want to make sure it's there, I can grab the roof, hide the roof, and now you can see I've got my soffit and fascia elements in place. Oops. There you go, soffit and fascia elements. Let's put the roof back and finish that up with some gutters. Nice thing about gutters is they're done just like fascia. You're just going to click them into place. So roof tool, drop down, gutters tool. Once again, with the gutters, it's all about picking the correct line that you want to place it on. Obviously, it's going to be on this top exterior fascia line. So we have our gutter right there. Sometimes people will pick the wrong line and the gutter will end up here. So it's there. And then if you're really not paying attention, sometimes people will pick the interior gutter line, and then you'll have gutters on the interior. So let's hide this. So here's the gutter on the inside because I picked the wrong line there. Gutters down here because I picked the wrong line there. You always want to make sure you pick that correct line right there. So if I tried to fix that gutter, all of them are going to be active because they were all done in that last session I did. So when I hit delete, they're all gone. So I'm just going to go ahead and put them back now. So go to top exterior fascia line here, here, spin it around here, here, close that tool out. And now we have our soffit fascia and gutters. And it just starts to look more complete and more finished. For these gutters, if you want to go in here, go into edit type, duplicate, rename. Then you can change the material right here. A lot of people like to create a new material and then just paint it. Let's just use this bright yellow. I use this a lot just because it's vivid and I'll know to go back and fix it. So you can change the color of that, just ways that we can add little details to the house, to the building. Any questions about soffit fascia and gutters before we move on? Okay, cool. All right, let's see what's next. Painting walls. This gets to be a little fun too. All right, so a couple of steps in painting walls. This is where we're going to create a lot of materials because you're just going to create materials for those wall finishes. So we'll just create a couple of materials now. We'll do a split element tool and then we'll do our paint tool. So how does all this work? Let's go to Revit. I just want to create a quick new material. So I'm going to go to the Manage tab, Materials tool, and I'm going to start with a new material, Create New, and I'm going to rename this. What I might want to do this. Let's do wood panel. Go down to my type selector. Let's use this beech wood here. Double click on that. Go to use render appearance. Hit OK. Okay, so I've created my materials in there. So when I create my paint, the paint will be there. So now I want to go to level 1. And I'm going to use my split tool because when I paint something, when you paint it, it's going to paint that entire wall at one time. And say you want this wall to be this wall in this room to be a different color than this wall in this room. So you're going to have to split the walls in order to create paint in 2 different rooms. So let's take a look at that. That's in our Modify tab. And in our Modify panel, and it's this little guy right here, Split Element. And if we just linger over that real quick, you'll see how we can just split the walls there. And when we click on that, it gives us a little X-Acto knife tool. So it looks like that. And then when we come in over the walls, it's going to give you that cut line of where exactly you want it to be. So if I split the wall right here in the middle for two different wall types on this wall and this wall, I want to split it right in the middle of this perpendicular wall. And the reason I want to do that is now this entire wall is going to be one wall section, and this is going to be another wall. That way I can paint these two walls. If I use my split tool and I split the wall right here instead, you'll see now I've got this little section here that's pink, that the paint, if I painted it, would be on this section and this section, and it would be different here. So that's why it's real important to split it in the middle of those walls, so you have that, so the paint can go in the correct sections. So split walls pretty easy. You just have to be careful that you do it in the intersection of these walls. And let's go to 3D and see how we can paint the walls now and what these different wall splits will turn into. So 3D, obviously I'm going to have to hide a couple of these things, and let's hide this roof. I'm going to hide all my ceilings. And now I can kind of take a peek in here. So if I click on this wall, this is the wall that I split, and this wall that I split. If I spin this around to the opposite side, you'll see this wall is not split. It selects the entire wall. So let's see how the paint will apply in these different aspects. All right, so to apply our paint, we're going to go to our Manage tab, to our Geometry panel, and this is our paint tool, this weird little shape right here. It's like a material symbol applying to a cube. So that's like we're painting the wall. So there's ways that we can paint. And then to remove the paint, we have remove paint. So let's do paint first. When we click on paint tool, then our all materials that we've already created pops up. This is why it's important that we already have our material created before we go into paint, because I can only paint what I already have in my materials browser. So this is what I have a selection of. This is the paint that I just created. I'm calling it wall panel, but I'm applying it with the paint tool. That's okay. So I'll click on there. That's the one we want to use. And here I'll paint this wall that color. And then I'll select this wall over here. And now if I wanted to switch to this wood over here, or this wall covering application, we can change that. And let's just end that right there. And now you can see we've created two separate wall coverings. Let's set those to realistic. So we have those set there, and we have this wall that we created over here, that we painted over here. We've got that finished there. So it's looking pretty nice. So those are the walls that we split correctly. Let's take a look at how we split this wall over here and what's going on with this little section. So let's go continue applying paint on there. So back to our paint tool. Let's use this bright, obnoxious yellow. So say I want to just paint in this room and paint in this room. But if I click on this wall without having it split, it's going to paint that entire wall at one time. And then this wall, I didn't split correctly. So if I just wanted this wall painted yellow, notice since I didn't pick that wall split correctly, I didn't do it in the middle of this perpendicular wall. Now I have this bleed over here to this wall here. So that's why it's important to make sure when you're painting stuff, you want to make sure the other walls are split where you want it to be. Say I'm done with this and I just realized I messed that up. So what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll go to my remove paint. I'll get rid of that. I'll get rid of that. And I want to fix this wall here, so I'll go back to level 1. Here's where I split the wall wrong. Oops. Okay. I'm going to hide this door. I'm going to take this wall and delete it. And then I'm just going to drag this wall back and close it up. I was hoping it would save my door space, but it didn't. So I'll have to go back and put that door in. But that's okay. I'll go back and put in the door just to fix that wall. So you see how it's really the best way to do it is make sure you do it, follow the appropriate line of doing stuff in the correct order, because if you don't do things in the correct order, you can go back and have these issues where it causes other issues, and then have to put your door back in and stuff like that. But all of it's just kind of a learning tool right now, so that's okay. Let's go back to 3D. So one thing I just caught my eye on here was the way that this wall opening was created. And I have to say it works, but it's not necessarily the correct way to do it. I don't know if you noticed that, but we have an opening that was created in this project using 3 door opening tools, which for not knowing how to do it to begin with, this is a good way to kind of get it done. It's not necessarily the correct way, and the reason that I caught it is because in level 1, it's giving us 3 door opening symbols right here. So notice how this is a open doorway here, open pathway. So we have that here, but this one looked weird. So that shows that there's actually 3, it was made with 3 different door openings. So if you just needed to get stuff done quickly to show a client, this is totally fine. It would not be correct in a set of floor plans because it's giving us these 3 symbols here that show us it's 3 door openings. So whoever did this, I give you props for creativity and trying to figure out how to do that without knowing how to do a cut opening. But now that we did that in last class, go ahead and switch that back to cut opening. And also just in this one, just a couple of things. You can go ahead and delete this this wall section that runs between this chimney. You can do that by going to split element. You can split element here. And this one, we'll just do it in the middle. And the reason we can just do that in the middle is because I just want to pull these back so that wall is not intersecting my chimney. So you can just kind of fix it like that, which is real nice. It looks a little better. This is fine. Another thing, let's jump to 3D just to kind of tweak things on this one. Let me put everything back. So this would be fine here. You can use that. Obviously, this side, we want to just go ahead and close up that chimney wall. So you can come in here on level 2. And what wall type was used here? Basic wall, 4-inch. All right, and then we can go back to architecture tab, wall tool. I'll pick that brick. This is sometimes the hardest part, just making things join right. Because, yeah, if you left it like this, let's jump to 3D and show you what it would look like. notice those walls aren't joined, so you'd have something that kind of looks like that. So we need to fix those wall joins. Let's jump back to level 2. Sometimes the easier way to draw a chimney is to use just use that wall tool and create just a rectangle. And that way you don't have to worry about that wall over there, because it does make it a little difficult to do that sometimes. So that's another way that you can draw a chimney, just using that rectangular tool. Let's get rid of that since we don't need that anymore. But yeah, sometimes the hardest part is just kind of joining these walls. Let's see. Drawn on level 1. All right, that's intersecting, so it's not going to let me do that. So I'm going to take that. And what I'm doing here, you notice I just moved it just very basically. I don't think I showed this to you yet, but just moving it incrementally like that. If you use your directional arrows on your keyboard, you can move it just a little bit at a time to make things flush. There's other ways we can do it by using our other tools. I'll show you that later on. But just to get this done, I'm just using my directional arrows on my keyboard. So that can be very helpful as well. So let's go here. Let's go back to 2D. And then we've got that kind of finished off. We still have this strange look right here on our ends where those walls meet. You know, that's not necessarily too much to worry about, but if I did want to correct that, I'd click on this wall tool here, go into edit type. Notice that they have something called wrapping at the ends. If I change this to exterior and I hit OK. That's set to our interior. Maybe let's set to interior the way it was drawn. All right, that just doesn't want to work with me. There's different ways I can pull these walls back to make them work. So here I'd pull this one back, pull this one over, and rejoin it like this. It's not going to let me, might not be letting me. Let's go back to 3D. Ah, that did work. So notice how I just realign those walls, how that did kind of close that off, and it gives me now that brick look here, and I would have to do the same here. So these are just like more advanced level things just to kind of catch as you're doing stuff. I would not take off for that. But as you get more advanced and really want to refine your work, you want to kind of catch little things like that. Just so you have that correct and it doesn't kind of stand out as something that's, you know, that's off. And then if you wanted to change the height of these chimneys, then you can just select that wall type, remember, and you can just set that down. It's set to level 1 and it goes up to 20. So if you wanted to change that to 18 feet to make it a little bit shorter, or even higher if you wanted to, you're just going to change that. Obviously, I'd have to pick them all at the same time, but here you can see I changed the height of that to 18 feet. Let's see. All right, that's it for today's class. Any questions about today's class? Anything we went over today? Any questions about stuff that we've gone over so far in the semester? Okay, I'm sorry, whoever that is, you're not coming through at all. It sounds like you're a robot. So I'm not sure if something's going on with your audio.
Can you show how to extend the roof past the wall line?
Can you type that in the chat, please? I'm sorry, it's just kind of coming through real tinny. I don't, not sure what's going on with the audio. Yeah, if you don't have time to chat right now or text it, just shoot me an email and here we go. Perfect. Thank you. Can you see how to extend the roof past the wall line? The roof past the wall line? Like how to create an overhang? Yes or no? Perfect. Yes, we can do that again. Totally. Cool. All right. So let me just start a new one. Because that's probably the easiest way to do it. New project, architectural. Okay. Let's throw up a couple of walls. We've got our walls in place. Let's throw up our roof. All right, so how to create that roof overhang, how to keep the wall extending past the how to extend the roof past the wall line. It's basically just creating an overhang. So it defaults to no overhang. So if we look here, we have our overhang set to 0. So that means when I come in here and I pick this wall line, it's going to be flush with that wall, but we wanted to extend past that. So in order to do that, I would need to change this overhang. And what I did for that last project is I changed that to 3 feet. I'm not telling you what side, how much to make your overhang. Hopefully it'll correspond with, what's on your house. At least make a 1 foot overhang so you can create your soffit. But for your midterm exam, you will be told how big to make an overhang. So for this one, we're just going to make that 3 feet. And then when I come in here and select this wall, you'll notice where that overhang is going to go. I've selected that interior wall, so that's not correct. I want to make sure that's on the exterior side. So that's going to bring out that wall line there. And now we have our roof line falling into place there. So yeah, it's just a matter of changing your overhang to the height, the size that you want. See, now we have a 3 foot overhang, and we'll go ahead and hit our green check mark. We'll just attach those this time, and we'll go to 3D, and you'll see now we have that overhang there. So if I wanted to go back and fix that and change that size of that overhang, I could go back, select the roof, make it active, hit edit footprint. Now I would select all my all my roof lines. With all my roof lines active, I could change my overhang. I could even make that 4 foot. So now I have a 4 foot overhang on that roof. So, yeah, to create that overhang, it's really easy. It's just a matter of, you know, changing that dimension right there. Any other questions, y'all? All right, if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and end class. One thing I did want to bring to your attention is that the mod for this class is going to be due on the 20th. It's real important that I take a look at your progress. So no matter where you are in your work, submit your progress. This goes for people that attend class and especially for people that don't attend class, because I don't want you to come back after Mardi Gras or before, you know, this week right here and be, you know, like totally, you know, having to redo your project or having a ton of big issues and things like that. So this way, if you turn in your progress here, actually, I'll probably just move up that date to the 19th. So I know I have time to review it on the 20th. That way, when we come back for class, you'll have time to take a look at my comments, make corrections, and ask questions before we go to Mardi Gras break. So do make every effort to get this turned in. You don't get a grade for turning it in. It is just a matter for me to take a look at your work, catch any issues that you're having ahead of time. You'll notice just by kind of going over this one project in class today, we kind of caught a few things that would have, you know, been taken off for this project as the when this person turned it in. So I do try and hit a couple of different people's projects throughout this semester, so we can use them as examples. And then also we can kind of learn how to fix those and see what kind of errors are made and how to correct that. So that's it for class today. I'll get the recording posted and I will see you guys on Wednesday.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Take care, y'all.